Hi everyone. I wanted to start out our semester with a little video explaining a bit about what economics is and what economics isn't. A lot of times in K through 12 schooling, we have math classes every year and we have history classes every year. We have science classes every year, but we don't always study economics. So it's not a subject that a lot of people are familiar with, and they're not always sure what we do. So I'll explain a little bit about it, and I want to show you some resources that I've posted to our website. I want to start with this website, which is called Gapminder World, that I've posted to our website. And what this shows is the state of the world here in the year 1800. And on the vertical axis of this graph is life expectancy. And we see that the average life expectancy in 1800 is about 30 years. On the horizontal axis is income. This is per person annually, and it's adjusted for inflation. Every dot on the graph represents a country, and the size of the dot represents that country's population. So the bigger the dot, the bigger the population. And the color corresponds to this map in the upper right, where we see green for the Americas, red for Asia, yellow for Europe, and blue for Africa. So this is the world as it stood in 1800, just 220 years ago. And we see that the average life expectancy is only in the 30s, and the average income is between $500 and $2,000 per person per year. So just 200 years ago, the world is a very sick, very poor place where people are dying from things like broken legs and tooth infections and very simple illnesses that today we consider very routine. 200 years ago, these things could be deadly. So let's see how far we've come in the last 200 years as I put this map in motion. And we see the countries move as time progresses. We see a dip there for World War I and another for World War II. And here's the world that we're living in today. The first thing we notice is that population has grown dramatically and our bubbles are much bigger. The second thing we notice is that life expectancy has more than doubled just over the last 200 years. Also, income has risen dramatically. So just over the last 200 years, we have seen a miracle that has never before occurred in human history, as health has gotten dramatically better, wealth has gotten dramatically better, the world has improved in ways that we haven't seen throughout human history in just the last 200 years. This is extraordinary. What's even more extraordinary is that this continues to happen today. Now, of course, we do have plenty of room to grow. We see that many of the sub-Saharan countries are still behind as far as income and life expectancy goes, but they're improving dramatically year over year. And I believe that these trends are going to continue. We see a lot of doom and gloom in the news, but what people don't tell you is on a global scale, the world is getting better. About 100,000 people every day are being lifted out of abject poverty. Economics is the science and study of how this has happened and how we continue to move forward today. Economics is the science and study of how we allocate scarce resources among unlimited wants. And I'm going to talk more about that in a bit, but I want to give you some notes and first of all let you know that if you're interested in things like this kind of growth, if you're interested in global well-being, economics is one of the things that you can study. Economic growth leads to more individual freedom. It leads to longer lifespans. Economic growth is actually great for the environment. The wealthier people are, the more they want to protect the environment around them. Economic growth is what allows us to develop technology and improve healthcare and improve education. Economic growth fosters peace. International trade and economic growth encourage countries to get along. If you study economics, these are among the things that we look at. So let's ask ourselves, what is economics and how does it relate to the other courses in the business school? And a lot of people, when I tell them I'm an economist, they start asking me about the stock market. And they say, oh, what stocks are doing well and what investments and are bonds, or what investment should I be in for the next year? Well, the truth is I don't really know. I can't give you that advice. That's not really what we consider economics. That's called finance. It's another business class. It's on the next hall over. We know those guys, but it's not really what we do. We deal with some financial information and we deal with money and we deal with markets, but stocks and investment is really more the finance department. So they'll say, oh, okay, that's not you. So economics is a profit and loss of a business and its revenue and how much they earn and how much they pay employees. And I think, well, no, that's not really us either. That's the accounting department. It's on another floor. I mean, again, we know those guys and we do talk about businesses and revenue and their profitability, but that's not our main thrust either. And they'll say, oh, yes, so economics, businesses, it's how you run a business and how many people you hire and what you produce and how much to produce and how to make it. Well, that's not really us either. That's the management department. They're also in the same building, and we know those guys. And we do deal some with how businesses run and the decisions that they make, but that's not us either. Economics is kind of at the center of all of these things because economics is the study of how we make decisions, of how we decide what to produce, of how we decide where to work. Economics is the science and study of how we allocate scarce resources among unlimited wants. And one of the things we talk about a lot in economics is scarcity. Now, when we hear resources, a lot of people think natural resources like oil, water, and soil. And of course, those are resources, but in economics, we think more broadly than that. We think about people as resources. We think about our skills and our education as human capital and resources. We talk about money, of course, is a resource. And scarcity is a matter of, it's just a fact of life. Scarcity is something we have to deal with because wants will always outnumber the resources we have. Now, a note, scarcity does not mean poverty. Poverty we can reduce. Poverty we can work toward eliminating. Poverty is the condition of not having enough resources to meet your basic needs. Scarcity is the fact that we don't have enough resources to meet everyone's unlimited wants. So because of that, because resources are scarce, this leads to rationing. So not everyone gets a Jaguar. Not everyone gets a 5-bedroom home. Not everyone gets a college education. We ration these things. How? Why? Who gets what? That is the study of economics. We look at how we allocate scarce resources among unlimited wants. Who gets what? How do we do it? And what decisions and how do we make those decisions to allocate resources among unlimited wants? We look at this individually for individuals and families and businesses, and we call that microeconomics. We also look at this on a global scale among countries and how countries trade and what they produce and what they decide to produce, and we call that macroeconomics. And this year in 150, we'll be looking at both. So that's a little overview of what we do in economics. Thank you for watching.